guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Andy and today I'm going to be explaining a few flight attendant terminologies. Is that a word? I'm going to explain some flight attendant terminology to you basically in today's video. I've chosen a few things that I think are useful for you to know whether you're a passenger or if you're an aspiring cabin crew member. This is actually some useful little lingo that you might hear us using. It's not so much of the slang, it's more of like the technical terms, just so that you understand a little bit better. If you're new here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you'll choose to stick around and check out some of my other videos and hopefully hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any more of my content. The first word is pax. And that is basically just the short version of us saying passengers. It just makes it so much easier if we say pax boarding or we have 150 pax. The next word is paxing slash jump seating. So paxing would be when you as a crew member are trying to go somewhere, let's say for a weekend away or something like that, and you need to fly on your company's aircraft, but you are not on duty. So you will usually get a passenger seat. If there are no available passenger seats, then you might have to take up one of the extra crew jump seats. So that's why we call it either paxing or jump seating. But it's basically just a way for an off-duty crew member to get somewhere that the airline regularly flies to. The third word is deadheading. So usually when crew to deadhead, it's because they have to operate a flight from somewhere that is not where they currently are. If that makes sense to you. Basically, let's say you are Durban-based crew, but you are rostered to operate a flight from Cape Town to Joburg. The company will make sure to deadhead you from Durban to Cape Town so that when you get to Cape Town, you can operate the flight from Cape Town to Johannesburg. Also, when you deadhead, you are technically on duty, so you are in your full cabin crew uniform, you have your makeup on, your hair's tied back, all that stuff. You are adhering to your on-duty rules, basically. Then the next thing I want to explain is cabin shoes and step outs. So basically step outs are little heels. They're usually not that high. They're about 2 inches, maybe 3 inches, depending on your preference, that cabin crew members have to wear when they are outside of the aircraft but on duty. So step outs. That would be the shoes you wear basically when you are walking through the airport, walking to and from your car, walking to and from the aircraft. And then once you are on the actual aircraft, you can change into your cabin shoes, which will be basically some flats. Most of us just wear like some ballerina shoes. They're just more comfortable flat shoes that you can actually work in, and also they are safer to work in because if there's turbulence and we are crew in the aisle with a big trolley and we get, like, you know, shoved from side to side, then it's a little bit safer if you're wearing flat shoes than if you're wearing high heels. A roster. This is basically flight crew and cabin crew's schedule. To just put it simply, it's our schedule. So there is always a rostering department or crew scheduling, or, you know, whatever you call it in your company. And they set up our schedules, and this is what tells us what flights we're going to operate, or what flights we're going to be operating during the next month. Usually we get our rosters during the last week of the current month for the next month. So it is June right now. We would get our rosters during the last week of June for August, so that you know what exactly you're going to be doing. Now, I know in America, usually you have either an on-reserve flight attendant, or you have a flight attendant that holds a line, which means it's like a set schedule. In South Africa, it's kind of a mishmash and like a mix of everything put together. So our roster will usually, let's say about 70% of it, 70% of our days on duty, let's say, let's not include our off days, 70% roughly, this is an estimate, of our roster will be days where you know your exact flight, you know your exact pairing, you know that on this day you are doing a 4-leg, on the next day you're doing a 2-leg, the next day you're doing another 4-leg, and so on and so forth. But then we also have days where we are either on home reserve or office reserve, or office standby, I guess we call it, which is basically like when you're on home reserve, you are at home and you need to be able to report to the airport to a particular flight within about an hour or 2 hours, depending on your company's rules. And then when you're on office reserve, it means you are at the airport in full uniform, ready to go with your work bag and all your required items and all of your documents. And if you get called out for a flight and you need to be on the plane in 10 minutes, then you can do that. So that's usually how we have our rosters. Seniors will also have days where they are on reserve, either home reserve or office reserve. Office standby, I don't know why I call it office reserve, it's office standby, or like airport standby. So seniors aren't exempt to this rule. They will also have days where they know their exact schedule and they know exactly their flights, and they will also have days where they are on standby, and that's usually only about 30% of our roster will be standby, where you might get called out and you might not. This is the cabin crew logbook. This is my lovely logbook. It basically has every detail of every flight I have ever operated as a cabin crew member. It's one of our required items, so whenever you sign on duty, you have to have your logbook with you. It is a legally required item that you have to have with you for every single flight. I will make a more detailed video about the cabin crew logbook and how we fill it in and what exactly you need to put in it. That will come in the next couple of weeks. FDP. Now, FDP is our flight duty period. This is our legal amount of time that we are allowed to work each day, each week, and each month. So it will state like, I think for pilots it's a lot more restrictive than for cabin crew. But it'll basically say, like, for instance, you can't work for more than 10 hours straight each day, you can't work for more than 6 days straight in a week, and you can't work more than, like, let's say 80 hours a month or something like that. It depends on the company, it depends on the country you're in. There's a whole lot of factors that go into it, but it is important that you also keep track of your own FDP to make sure that you're not breaking FDP. And that's, so if you ever hear like your cabin crew saying, I'm about to break FDP, I need a day off, or this or that, I need to call rostering because I'm gonna break FDP, that's basically meaning that you're about to become illegal. You're about to exceed the maximum of hours that you are allowed to work either that day, that week, or that month. A pre-flight briefing. This is basically the meeting that flight crew will have before every duty day. Whether you're signing on at 5 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, once all the crew is there and has signed on, you all sit down in one of the briefing rooms and you have to have a pre-flight briefing. This is where the captain will brief the rest of the crew on things like the weather and expected passengers on each flight and where we're going, and if we're expecting any delays, if we're going to be changing aircrafts halfway through the day, stuff like that. Then this is also where the senior will check that all the other cabin crew has all of their required items. They might ask you a few questions to make sure that you still know how to do your job, and they check your grooming and yeah, all that stuff. And they also brief you on things that are related to the cabin. Then we have passenger briefings. Now, passenger briefings are briefings that the cabin crew give to passengers who need them. So there are certain passengers who need to be briefed on what to do in an emergency that is specific to their case. So sometimes you will have a person with a broken leg who comes on board, we have to brief them on what to do in an emergency. People who are seated at an overwing exits need to be briefed on how to open the exits and when to open the exits and how to... Wait, did I say how? They need to be briefed on how to open the exits, when to open the exits, and what to do thereafter, basically. And then let's say you have a blind passenger, cabin crew will have to brief that blind passenger on certain things, not only for emergency situations, but even the basic things like where is the toilet, how many rows of seats away from their seat is the toilet, how to, like, where is the call bell on their passenger service unit, because what if they need the cabin crew members' help? They can't see the call bell, so you have to be the one who shows them. You need to give them the briefing, get them kind of like, so you as the crew member have to get them like accustomed to their surroundings. You need to make sure they can fasten and unfasten their own seatbelt without any help. Yeah, so stuff like that. That would be a passenger briefing. It's kind of a way for us to just make that particular passenger a little bit more comfortable for this flight. The phonetic alphabet is the way that the whole aviation industry, basically worldwide, that's how we spell. It just decreases confusion, especially with letters that sound similar, like M and N or B and D. It's easier to say the passenger 12B is causing a little bit of disturbance. You don't want to confuse that with the passenger in 12D, so you'll say the passenger in 12 Bravo or the passenger in 12 Delta, so that somebody else can understand exactly what you mean. It just is the way that we spell, basically, in a way that will decrease confusion, because some letters sound the same. And then last but not least, this is my favorite term that people in aviation use, and that is bottle to throttle. It's so funny. It's basically the restrictions that we have with alcohol. So as a cabin crew member, I think in South Africa, the legal limit is you can't have alcohol 8 hours before sign-on. But most airlines limit it a little bit more and say you can't have alcohol 12 hours before sign-on. So basically we just say it's 12 hours from bottle to throttle. Bottle to throttle, engine, throttle, I don't know if that makes sense. So maybe you'll hear a flight attendant, if you're like going out with your friends or something and you know you're flying the next day, you'll usually be like, oh no guys, it's only 8 hours from bottle to throttle for me, so I can't join you for a drink. So if you ever hear that, that's what that means. Okay guys, so that's it for my flight attendant aviation terminology video. If you know of a certain term that your airline uses or that you use in your country or whatever, then please comment it below. I would love to know what other people usually say. It's just, I hope that it helps you guys if you're a passenger and you can, just so you can understand a little bit better what exactly is going on, because sometimes the captain will actually forget that a lot of people don't understand what they're saying, and they might say, oh, sorry for the delay, you know, the previous crew ran out of FDP and so we came here, and so we're going to be leaving out of runway Bravo 3. Or like, you know, like all these random things, and like people are like, what? And like when I first flew, I had no idea what they were talking about. So hopefully this helps you guys understand it just a little bit better. So yeah, other than that, thank you so much for watching this video. I really do hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Please don't forget to spread good vibes and be kind. Bye bye.